Big day has finally arrived after Rajya Sabha. The lower house of the parliament has given its consent for the formation of a real estate regulator in the sector. Many home buyers across the nation can now rejoice and breathe a sigh of relief. So how much impact will this have on the sector, and will it really bring a good days for lakhs of homeowners? Let us find out. I have Unitam, our special correspondent, joining us. Yes, Unitam.
Absolutely, Chanakya. A really great day for the lakhs of home buyers who have been struggling for so many years now to get hold of their dream homes. Now, first, let me quickly take you through the main provisions of the bill as has been approved by Parliament today. First, all ongoing projects will now come under the purview of the bill. These projects which are awaiting completion certificates will have to comply with each and every provision listed out in the bill. They will have to register with the regulators. All of that will have to be complied by the developers. Second, carpet area sale has been withheld, yes, of course, but this will not be applicable for all the ongoing projects, which means the sale on the basis of carpet area will now be applicable only for future projects. Now, the other important provisions include that 70% of the funds collected from home buyers will have to be kept aside in a separate account, and this amount of money will be inclusive of the land cost. Now, the provision of many of the legislators actually requested the government to relax some of the provisions, one being the 500 square meters or 8 flats clause, to which the minister clarified that this has been left to the state's discretion, and as and when things happen, they will revisit this particular provision. Now, Venkaiah Naidu on the floor of the House categorically mentioned that this particular legislation is not to strangulate anybody. He will listen out to any issues that the builders might want the government to address. Now, I have with me here member Fight for RERA, who actually fought for this particular legislation. He is a home buyer. I have Gaurav Prakash with me in the studio, and we are also joined by Vinit Relia, MD Sare Homes. Coming first to you, Gaurav, how does it feel? All of you have really fought for this particular legislation.
Right, well, it feels great, and there is absolutely no doubt about it. I would like to take opportunity to thank Mr. Naidu, our Honorable Minister for Urban Development, to ensure that this bill sails through the Parliament, and now it is done. So, thanks to him. And I would also like to thank all the Federation of Apartment Owners Association in India and different regional associations, different individuals who have joined hands and worked together to make sure that this bill sees the day of light.
So, any concerns from your side? I mean, do you still have some worry somewhere?
Well, firstly, I'm happy. At least we have something on the table, something in the system where we feel safe, where we see that there are some regulations to look upon. But yes, we need to look into more details of the guidelines, the rules which will be made in coming days in relation to this bill. So, we have to see how well this whole system gets enacted, this whole regulation is implemented in spirit. And yes, we also see that there will be some further developments, positive developments in this area, which will benefit to all, be it builder or buyer, as the system, at the part of system.
Mr. Relia, over to you now. How does it feel? I mean, to me, it looks like, the news has been further tightened around you guys. So how would you like to react to all the provisions?
What will really happen with this is that the rules of the game are set now. As of until now, there's been a lot of ambiguity around various different provisions and in terms of the relationship between the buyer and the developer. So I think at least now all the rules are defined between the consumer and developers, and it will be very easy to pinpoint and create a scorecard in terms of developers really faltering or consumers faltering. So I think it's a very good move, and it goes in towards the industry maturing.
But Mr. Relia, the fact that urban local bodies are not part of the legislation, clearances take a lot of time. So will that continue to be a big concern area, though the minister has requested states to give approvals within 30 days?
Yeah, so you see, our biggest concern on this was that are we really adding another approval window on top of the already existing multiple layers and windows which we have to go through before project really sees the light of day. So that was the big concern, and we would have really appreciated that the developing authorities would have been also made a party onto it. We've seen in many cases, specifically into the suburban areas where we operate, we've seen that as a developer where we have delivered on our commitments for any residential project, there are many infrastructure commitments which actually the state governments and the developing authorities have to deliver. Now, they not being a part of any regulator and there not being any control on them also leaves all these ends loose. So while the developer might have delivered everything which is inside that particular, let's say a 20-acre township, there is a lot of infrastructure around that in that micro market which has to be delivered by the state authorities. So I would still request that the state authorities at some level should be made a part of this.
So any other concern areas for you?
I think, obviously one of the biggest concern areas will also be that now this will lead to an increase, on our reliance on external cash flows, which means that it will also impact the joint venture alliances, though we are yet to see the fine print which comes out in every specific state. But I think what will happen is once you get into a high capital requirement and limitations on joint ventures, this is going to reduce supply and which will ultimately lead to price increases. So while the delivery and quality issues will get sorted out and developers will have to really pull up their socks, on the other side for consumers, I think the product will get more expensive.
Well, but the minister has an entirely different take on that. He believes that prices will go down once the law is in place.
No, see, I think where he's coming from is that there's a lot of inventory sticking out where developers would like to sell it out before the regulator comes into force. Now, that's a short-term thing. But moving long-term, it's very logical if the fund flows are restricted, if the reliance on external capital goes up, it is very natural and there will be a lot of players who will probably opt out. So it's very natural that the prices will go up.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Thank you, Gaurav, for joining us here. And I just hope that we will not see as many protests anymore from home buyers. Like me and Chanakya has been covering a lot of them. Hopefully, we'll be able to enjoy our weekends along with all the home buyers.